2:02. We're going to start our budget hearing in regards to our parking garage overview. I'm happy to be joined by Councilor Hogan, Councilor Nave, Councilor Majoke, Councilor Williams. The chief is here.
I'm never going to live that down.
No, you're not. The chief.
Yes. And we've got Pat Monin here,
Pat Monin.
who's our parking garage supervisor, who's going to be able to help me out.
Take us away.
Okay.
See if you can beat the record for 7 minutes.
So I've just provided a kind of an overview of the garages that the city owns. So there's basically 5, used to be 6, but we were not too upset to part with the AXA garage. So there are 5 garages. The Center Armory garage, located right in Armory Square. It's an underground garage, operates mostly as a valet. The Fayette garage, which is the one at the corner it's on Fayette Street in between Montgomery and State. And the Harrison garage, which is the one that serves the Marriott Syracuse Hotel, not the Hotel Syracuse garage. That's the one that's directly across from the hotel and has the bridge across it. This one, the Harrison Street garage, is next door, and that's the one that has all the Marriott markings on it. That's the one that we currently lease to the Marriott, and they operate it. The Madison Irving garage, which is up off of in the East Genesee Street area, it's connected to a medical facility. And then the Washington Street garage, which is down on West Washington Street. And so, we have employees that are parking in both the Fayette garage and the Washington Street garage. Happy to answer any questions in terms of, construction that we'll be undertaking this year. The Center Armory garage will be undergoing a significant construction, which these subterranean garages pose a lot of issues in terms of, especially with drainage and water and salt being brought into it. So we've got Mary here from engineering who will be overseeing the Center Armory construction project. The Fayette garage, we have some work planned to be done there. We have a structural report that we contract with an outside engineering firm. That's done every 3 years. And then in between, generally speaking, we have a conditions assessment that the engineering firm does. And that's the engineer, we don't need to get into privately owned garages, but that's what we do for the public garages. So, in terms of demand and capacity, Center Armory garage, that's a smaller one. That's, doing really well. It serves a lot of the retail and the residents that live above, in the condos above. The Fayette garage, we have a waiting list for the Fayette garage. We have a lot of demand for that particular garage. The Harrison Street garage, as I mentioned, is operated by the Marriott. Madison Irving garage, serves the medical facility, and with all the construction happening along East Genesee Street, we, anticipate there might be increased demand for the Madison Irving garage. And then the Washington Street garage, that's one that it's the largest other than the Harrison garage, but the ones that we operate, 1,230 vehicles, and Laz, which operates our garages, which was awarded through a competitive bid, has really been doing a great job of reaching out to agencies, organizations, businesses to kind of drum up some additional business. So happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Just to piggyback on the report, so the actual report is done every 3 years.
The structural report is done every 3 years,
That last one was done in 2022.
And the last one, yeah.
Okay.
I checked this morning, 2022 was the last one that we had done. And so it's, we're starting conversations with CNS to do, in between that time period, we usually do a conditions assessment, but then also gearing up for the structural report to be done next year.
Okay, and then also, because I don't know if anybody else was able to find it, we cannot see anything pertaining to the revenue of the garages at all in here. So I don't know how to.
So I know it's in transportation. I think a lot of it, and Jenna is here to help me out. I think a lot of it is in the area where we have the contract with Laz, Jenna?
Page 8.
Oh, estimated revenues, yeah.
Okay, estimated revenues. Glad you, okay.
You know, and that is, I'd be remiss, given this opportunity of our budget hearing, to plant the seed with the council about revisiting our parking garage rates. We are in regular contact with Laz, who is on our behalf always looking at what nearby garages are charging, and there certainly are ones that are charging more. Now, we certainly don't need to be at the top of that, but generally speaking, we often set the floor. And so there are garages that are charging 10, 15, 20, 25, 35 more a month than we are. So, and especially given the demand, like I said, Fayette we have a waiting list for Fayette. The increased demand on Madison Irving, you know, with the upcoming construction in 81, there may be a demand for more parking. And also as other garages downtown are going offline for one reason or another, there may be increased demand. So again, we don't need to be, you know, the most expensive garage to park in, but, you know, if the council is open to it, we would like to revisit. It's not reflected in this budget, but we would like to have a conversation with the council about perhaps revisiting our monthly rate.
And then just for some clarification purposes, how are the columns here titled? Just to know what we're following here, because I see the numbers and percentages, I just don't know what we're looking at.
So I think
24 adopted.
24 adopted.
25 proposed. Dollar difference, percent change.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you much.
You know, so coming out of, you know, certainly COVID was a setback for the parking garages, but I think we continue to emerge from it and continue to see increased demand for parking garages. So, again, if the council would be open to it, we would certainly like to have a conversation to revisit our parking rates.
Now, Center Armory, when Mary does the renovation or whatever we have to do to shore up Center Armory, we bond for that, or is that CITA?
So we're not able to bond for it because the city doesn't technically own it. We operate it on CITA's behalf. And so we reached an agreement with CITA CITA is contributing $500,000 to the construction, and then the city is funding the rest.
Well, you know what I'm going to ask. Why isn't CITA putting the whole?
I would say it's probably a question for CITA.
Okay. Because they can bond too. CITA can.
Corey, I've been looking around a little bit. Where are the expenses, whether it be the contract with Laz or maintenance, et cetera?
So that is, and I'm glad that Jenna is here. The expenses, the contract with Laz, that's in the Transportation Bureau.
It's on 172, 173, looking through.
Yeah.
What are the estimated costs for the
For
Center Armory?
Oh, for Center Armory?
Yeah.
It's in the ballpark of $1 million, correct, Mary? Yes.
Corey, I wanna have a question
Found me out.
Sure,
around Harrison Garage,
yes.
and it's like a 185 difference. What was that? Did you say that's because of COVID? I'm on page
In the
8
contract.
for the revenues, page 8.
Yes.
So if you look at Harrison Garage,
That's yeah.
480, 450, no. Yes, for 400, 215, and the difference was 185,000 that we had lost. Well, was that COVID? Did you?
So I think for the Harrison Street Garage, I think that reflects the deal we have with the hotel to manage it, to Mary. I think that's why the amount of revenue for the Harrison Street Garage was below projections because of our renegotiation with the Marriott. Because the Marriott, right? People are
Yeah, 'cause
nodding.
they were hammered by COVID.
Right. So, I mean, if you remember, Counselor, we had to renegotiate our agreement with the Marriott because they pay us for using the Harrison Street garage. And so I think, I can double check, but I think that's what that reflects, is that the renegotiation with the Marriott for payments to use the Harrison Street garage. I think that's why that's coming in below. So on page 34, it shows more of the actuals. Okay. And then do we know where the contract for LAS, it's
I think.
in the transportation budget?
Proposed budget.
In the transportation budget, under professional services, presumably.
Yes. Yeah, so on page 175, under professional services, that's not the only thing that is in that budget line, but the contract with LAS is included in that budget line.
And referencing to page 34, when it says parking garage registration, is that just the amount of vehicles that came through, or is that a registration?
I think the parking garage registration would be private.
Well,
Go ahead, Pat.
it probably, even though I haven't seen this before, but it probably refers to the revenue that we get when a garage registers with the city. Part of our
private garage.
private
Oh, okay.
garages.
Gotcha.
Part of our process here is, we were talking a little while ago about structural assessments and structural surveys. That's a requirement from the council's, from the city's ordinance that requires all garages in the city to obey. So every year, every 3 years, all garages in the city are required to have structural assessments. In the interim years, they're required to have structural reviews, basically.
Plus, we close the garage near the hotel, right?
Yes, I mean, that's one of the reasons, is that their registration had expired, and there were also, some other health and public safety issues for the Hotel Syracuse garage.
How about the one on Warren? It's not ours, it's private.
It is private,
And
yes.
Has he not been using it? Because I know there's been a lot of
Yeah.
structural, okay.
It's closed with the exception of the, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
It's closed with the exception of the ground floor, which was just private parking. It's people that live in that area. They have this like fenced-in area right on the ground floor there. It's a separate entrance. They don't go through the main entrance or anything. That's all closed off. Just that area's deemed okay. It's about probably 100 cars.
Is it safe structurally?
The building itself?
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so.
Okay, so would the city have an authority to go in there and shut it down?
We have.
Yeah.
You have
It is
shut
shut
it down.
Yeah, code enforcement shut down.
So is there a possibility that it might have to be gutted and rebuild put in a new garage?
Absolutely.
That would be
Okay.
under his expense though, right?
Right.
Very expensive.
But the city that does not own that property,
No.
right?
No.
So we'd have to buy that property if we had to.
I understand there are some interested parties with that garage.
All right,
already
thank you.
involved.
You got one?
You got, Nader, you wanna?
I got it.
Okay.
Before you go, sorry, I don't mean to. Like, what about the, let me see personnel here.
Well, if I may finish up.
Yeah.
Part of the registration is a $100 fee when a garage registers and comes online with our, that gets them into more or less our system, so that every year I send out a citation saying you owe me a certificate of insurance, you owe me the $300 fee, administrative fee, and you owe me the structural report on the garage, be it the 3-year or the 1 year.
Is it more expensive to operate a parking garage than just a lot that we have on
By
South State?
far.
Very-
Parking garages are
Very
extremely,
expensive.
extremely.
They're more liable.
Especially in our climate.
Okay, thank you.
How much staff do we have to man the
You're-
garages? What's the
You're
cost
looking
for
at
that?
it.
Just you? Oh, so you're the one. Okay, I was just wondering, I was gonna say, we only got one person.
I do it all.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Actually, luckily, I do have a lot of help with people. Like Jenna does all the numbers for me, and Lori helps me with all the administrative stuff.
And what would your
I'm
title?
basically the liaison now to LAS, and helping them when they have an issue, if they need some city intervention, or something.
So within our transportation line, what would your title be considered?
I'm the parking garage supervisor.
Yeah, parking garage supervisor.
Okay. You're on the committee. You're on the committee. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am DPW.
What is it, the 417? So it looks like Pat is technically on the Sura payroll, so he wouldn't
Sura,
appear,
okay.
so he wouldn't appear on this list.
Perfect.
Send it over to Nader for question.
Thank you, Council. You don't have to turn around, Pat. Thanks. So Corey, you just
Yeah.
mentioned about every 2 years with CNS. And if I'm correct, they recommend millions of dollars of proposed repairs needed to our garage.
Yep.
In light of what occurred with AXA, what are we doing to have the resources or provide the resources based on the recommendations that they make, some of which are immediately required and others are probably a little bit more long-term. But how do we fund that?
Try and avoid another EXA.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is looking strategically at the garages to see which ones really make sense for us to hang on to and which ones there might be someone who might be better equipped. Center Armory, for example, is not one that has the potential for a lot of growth for us. It's 155 folks. It's going to continue serving the same population. And so I know SIDA had put it out to see if anybody was interested in purchasing it. I think in the condition that it's in, understandably, not a lot of folks responded, but I think whether it's Center Armory, whether it's Madison Irving, given the growth in the East Genesee Street, now obviously you can say, well, if there's growth there, then maybe there's an opportunity for us to get more revenue, but also, you can't, to the point, you can't oversee the capital costs and how much revenue can you bring in to really to outweigh the capital costs. So I think that's what we're really trying to take a look at is, Washington Street Garage is the newest garage. We're working with CNS to make sure we're doing proactive measures to try and make sure we maintain that garage. Center Armory and Madison Irving are two garages that I think we need to collectively decide whether or not strategically it makes sense for us to hang on to those garages, given the repairs that they're going to. Center Armory already needs it, but whether or not it makes sense to hang on to that. And then the Fayette garage is probably the one that is going to be the biggest pickle for us because there's a high demand for it. With the move over to One Park Place, we have staff parking there, but it was built in 1985, and the life of these garages is not eternal. Even if you do put in all the measures to try and take care of it, they're not going to live forever. And so I think we're going to have to decide, what do we do? It's not today, it's not tomorrow, but down the line, we're going to have to decide what we do with the Fayette garage. So, I mean, we take the CNS report, we incorporate that into the capital plan. We aren't able to do every single thing that they advise us to do, but, we do try to prioritize with the resources that we have and make sure that we are doing the best we can to take care of the remaining garages.
So just for context purposes for new counselors, when Corey references the AXA garage, the city had to bond $17 million to transfer that to a new owner because of the repair costs that had occurred over a period of time. That's it. The other question I have is, and I've had this conversation with the budget director in my previous life as the auditor, I also had identified, it just in line with what the counselors are trying to understand, the expenses for the parking garage that the city incurs, some of them are under the transportation budget, correct? Is that still the case? Mm-hmm. So we had recommended that be put into a separate category within the budget. We made that recommendation to the administration so you all could see what the revenue is, and what the expenses are for city staff, materials that we purchase. You can't identify that currently without a lot of invoices, et cetera. Jenna probably has that responsibility. Right. It'd be very difficult. So the recommendation for the counselors, you might want to suggest that for budget purposes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we got to be cognizant of the garages as far as the whole sphere of economic viability of downtown Syracuse. I mean, we're not going to make money off the garages to the extent of what it costs to like maintain them.
Right.
But, you know, as far as people living downtown or businesses relocating downtown, we have to control parking. That's, we have to offer them something.
Right.
You know, as witnessed by the new place down there, the Center City, what do they call that one?
City Center, yeah. I mean,
You just have to do it. I mean,
Right.
it's gotta,
I mean,
because we're a different ballgame.
right, and totally agree that, you know, it's unlikely that we'd ever bring in enough revenue to make parking garages a lucrative, you know, and in some ways, we have these parking garages so that we can, you know, set at least a floor so that parking garage costs don't go completely out of whack. But at the same time, to the counselor's point, like there is so much growth downtown that, again, it might be worth revisiting. And again, we don't need to be the top of the market. We don't want to be the most expensive garage, but to make sure that we're not losing an opportunity to capitalize on the growth downtown to revisit our parking rates. We don't want to price anybody out, but we also don't want this to pass us by. You know, and there are, I know there have been some conversations previously about, well, maybe we don't do an across the board, you know, maybe Fayette, where it is downtown, there's a lot of demand. Maybe what we charge there is different than the Washington Street Garage, which is on a different area of downtown and has more capacity, you know, and then we could make that a more attractive alternative for folks.
And you talk about we talk about parking lots. Parking lots are basically non-productive for the city as far as that goes. I mean, a garage is much more conducive to like helping the city out than a parking
Yeah.
lot is, as far as tax revenue or for anything else. So.
Yeah, it's just, you know, they're expensive to maintain and, you know, and so it's a balance we got to strike.
What, an underground garage, has it ever been considered, have an underground garage?
Yeah, I mean, the AXA garage was you know, huge underground garage and, you know, it's just really difficult to maintain and the condition that it's in didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen over the last 5 or 6 years. That's, you know, decades of underinvestment. You know, it's just it's really tough with snow and ice and melt and, you know, having an underground garage is difficult, I'm sure, anywhere, but particularly in our
But
climate.
if that garage wasn't allowed to be built, we wouldn't have had money to.
Exactly.
You know,
That's
so-
what, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not that it shouldn't have ever been built, but I don't think that there was a plan in
Well, the
place.
same thing with galleries, right? There was issues with them when they built the galleries, that they're underground
Yeah.
garage, and there were issues.
I mean, most of a number of the garages, you know, I'm sure that Center Armory was built to try and, you know, spur the development in Armory Square, and Madison Irving Garage was there to probably complement the medical facility. So,
I think a former Driscoll had a.
I'm
something to do
sure
with
there was a
that
former
deal.
Driscoll. That's something to do with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was certainly a reason to build them in the first place. I think it's just figuring out, you know, where's the best and highest use of the city's resources.
I do think, though, if I may, prior to COVID, the city was, if I'm not mistaken, the garage revenue was around $3 million a year. So that revenue over 6 garages would probably just about put us to a break-even point. Now, we're a lot less than that now, obviously, and it's all the effects of COVID. Are the garages rebounding? To some degree, they are. I was surprised when I asked about Washington Garage earlier today. And Washington Garage right now has like 729 daily parkers. That's a big jump from just even several months ago. So it is rebounding. They are going at it. Fayette Garage has a waiting list that could be much longer if we continued it going and going and going. Madison Irving, we've got so many people wanting to get in that garage, we could bump the price $75 easily. Put it up, I mean, if you want it, I mean.
Right. I mean, as downtown transforms from maybe a business atmosphere to more of a residential place, you know, we're going to have to deal with those issues.
Yeah,
of
those
parking.
are your issues. I mean, you guys,
Until we tell them they're yours.
They're ours. They're all ours.
In regards to the waiting list with the parking garages, how do you vet those? 'Cause I know there's a lot of people that work in all the different buildings down here, especially
Yeah.
aside from the residents. People
Yeah.
that work, they would like to park in a
Yeah.
parking garage.
Yeah, I mean, Laz manages that list for us, and I think generally it's probably just a first come, first serve. You know, and with the move into One Park Place, obviously we've got more employees that are taking up more space in the Fayette garage, but you know, at the same time, you know, we own the garage, so we can do that.
You got the bus. What happened to the bus from
We've
Washington
still got
Street?
the shuttle,
So
yeah.
those folks now they don't want to take the bus? or
No,
what?
no, most of those folks that are in Fayette now were in Lot 3.
Okay.
And so the Washington Street garage, we've still got, I think, 239 of employees, you know, that have passes for the Washington Street garage, and the shuttle is operating to take folks. Yes.
Corey, what's the difference between, I mean, how are we in terms of what we charge for garages compared to the market rate around downtown and?
So, I mean, it definitely depends. And, you know, if you look at, you know, the Fayette garage, you know, our garage, we charge $90 a month. If you look at, you know, the Treasury building, that one charges $110. For the Washington Street garage, you know, we're charging $90. The Atrium garage, I believe, is at $110. So there are,
We could be all right.
you think they're up to 125? So I mean, you know, and again, I'm not seeking for us to be the most expensive garage downtown, but I would like to explore the conversation of getting us in the mix and seeing, you know, even if it is an additional $5-10 you know, a month, the competitors have already, you know, exceeded that. So again, I don't want to price people out of our garages, but I don't want the opportunity to pass us by. There's more demand, and you know, I think it'd be a worthwhile exercise if the council is open to it for us proposing some increases in garage rates.
Yeah, I mean, we could go up a little bit and still be under.
Still be, yeah, exactly.
One of the things that's happened is with the innovations we've gotten with the the better lighting, the better revenue control system, the gates and all, more and more people are coming to us asking, and the urbanization of the city, I guess is what I'll call it, more people are coming to us wanting overnight parking. In a lot of these garages, we hadn't had set that rate because we never had it before. We never allowed the garages to run 24 hours because we didn't have the camera system in place to handle the security. So now we're at a point now, what do we charge these people? Like, for instance, Madison Irving's a good question. You know, we know that the market there would easily bear $175 a month because it's all students that are, and people in the medical centers that are screaming to find any parking at all. But, you know, it's not something we would just do. So that's bears.
So is there a plan, Pat, or?
So I mean, if we have had some initial conversations, and I think we've got some drafts together, but I mean, we'd be happy to share that with the council if the council's open to it, to the conversation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
What about the Orange Street garage? Is that, what's the status on that?
That's the one we were talking about recently.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, it's got the ground floor
I
is the
got
only one
mixed
open.
up with the other garage that's closed with the hotel, okay.
Well, I guess, you
Went
know.
over 7 minutes,
Yeah,
didn't
you
we?
did. But this will be my second shortest meeting, so you guys can hold the record for second place. Mayor Robinson, you still have the first place trophy, so if there's if there's no further questions or remarks, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. So moved. All right, motion's carried. Everything's good. Thank you for coming.
Thank you,
out.
councilors.
Absolutely.
Thank you.